It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this afternoon, someone I've known most of this century. Okay, it started in 2000 for those who need to catch up. Alan Guttman. Met Alan at the Johnson & Johnson Management Institute at UCLA back in 2000. We spent a wonderful 2 weeks in Los Angeles learning how to become better managers of Head Start programs, being better advocates in our communities. And by the end of the week, we were calling Alan, we gave him another name. We started calling him G-Man. Now why, I don't know, but it caught on. Maybe he can tell you. But Alan has great knowledge. He has many experiences as a director of programs serving children and families ages birth to 12. Definitely Head Start is one of those. Alan is very passionate about what he does. He holds a master's degree in early childhood education. He has served children and families for 33 years as a Head Start director, a teacher, a parent educator, a college instructor, and I will boast for him that he has expertise that includes early childhood education in the areas of administration, curriculum, and assessment, and quality assurance monitoring. He has served as a federal reviewer for 11 years, from 2001 to 2012. He served on federal review teams evaluating Head Start education services and management systems. In 2009, Alan served as the director of Head Start Region 4 American Indian / Alaska Native Training and Technical Assistance Network. Alan focuses heavily on quality in all areas and at all levels. He isn't bashful. He will speak truth to power. Sarah said amen. She said yes, but I interpreted that as yes. He has been an administrator and manager of federal programs and contracts. He previously focused on early childhood programs. And also, through his consulting, Alan provides highly effective training, technical assistance, and knowledgeable management support to early childhood programs. His clients include the National Head Start Association, Dania International, California Community College, and the California Department of Education, and Pacific Oaks. For those of you who may be a part of the J&J Fellows Network listserv, he may not know this, but I'll say that we consider Alan as the guru. When there's an issue out there focusing on public policy, most of us just sit and say, well, we're going to hear what Guttman's got to say about this. And usually Guttman has something to say. And he's in Orlando today. And he has something to say. I consider him a friend. My first time in Los Angeles on the West Coast at that time. And Alan and I, after the institute was over that Friday afternoon, we kind of took a tour of Los Angeles. Tony Randall and Jake Guttman had nothing on us. We were the new century odd couple. But we made our rounds. And we probably made little impact or impressions, I know, in the sand on the beaches out in California. Alan was body surfing, and there I was with my sunglasses on under a multicolored umbrella. Odd couple. It's my pleasure, it's a privilege that Alan will come before us this afternoon and share from Alan's own way. Give him a round of applause for it.
I don't think you're going to have a problem hearing me, but if anyone does, you probably should have a hearing check. Good afternoon. Florida Head Start Association. You are the association, so I thank you first You are the association. And I do want to extend special thank you to my friend Eric Scott for inviting me here, having faith in me. I've kind of jokingly said, you know, if this doesn't go well today, talk to Eric. But I also say, if it goes well, talk to Eric also. I want to thank the president, Mr. Holt. I want to thank Dolores Johnson, yes, for helping me through the process. Twyla Stewart for also providing assistance getting me here, getting everything written up and done in order. I want to thank Eric. We've got video on screen. We don't have any technology issues. Thank the technology people. And also I want to thank Beth Rawls, who has kind of held my hand and walked me to the point that I'm here today. So, who knows about the Head Start Impact Study? Has anybody heard about, there's not enough hands, the Head Start Impact Study? You know, like the last 10 years. So I'm going to give you the Head Start Impact Study summary in about 20 seconds. Head Start is making a huge difference in preparing children to be ready for school when they enter kindergarten. There's no question about it in the impact study. There is some question about what happens with children by the time they reach third grade and why Head Start is responsible for what has happened from the time they entered kindergarten to the time they've reached third grade. And I've kind of asked myself, you know, if a child got out of second grade and the teacher had done wonderful things with that child and they got into third grade and they were doing great, but then by sixth grade, all of a sudden those children were falling off, do you think they would go back to the second grade teacher and say, what'd you do here? So that's kind of what they're doing with Head Start, in my mind. But we're not going to talk about that today, because they only measure the small stuff. We're going to talk about today the immeasurable stuff, the stuff that you can measure inside the children that we work with, inside the parents that we work with. We see it every day. You see it every day. It's that immeasurable that we don't hear about, but we know about, and it keeps us working. Being in early childhood, I'm going to be doing a variety of media today. I'm going to be reading off a sheet sometimes, so I apologize for not looking at you, looking in the back of the room. And I'm going to also be maybe reading off my screen. I'm going to be sharing. Probably half are going to be my own stories, but I've also reached out kind of across the nation to hear some stories directly from parents about some of those impacts. I had someone reach out to me from Texas that wanted to tell me about one of his staff people. So I'm going to read directly off of a piece of paper what he wrote about this staff person. And we're going to end with a video. When you see that video, either get ready to cry or what I'm going to ask you to do is to get ready to share. So this is going to be a little bit of an interactive keynote speech. I want you to think you're going to have some stories here. I'm going to try to finish within 30 minutes so that I leave about 10 or 15 minutes for you, okay? Because I want to hear your stories. I want us to hear our stories here, Florida's stories, okay? So also, I was going to say I was going to acknowledge what happened in Boston, but I'm going to acknowledge it very early on. But before we get there, we always talk about SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-sensitive. That's something we learned, I think, actually in our fellows class, Eric. I think we did. So I was talking today about SMART impacts. Specific, the stuff I'm sharing today, it's not going to be any more specific than you can find. These are going to be very unique, individual, specific stories that no study, no impact study over 10 years can capture. That's what we're going to hear today. Measurable, I don't think you're going to be able to measure it with a study. You're going to just have to measure it by listening and having what I say resonate with you, and you be the judge of how it measures. Attainable, well, what I'm sharing to you, it's all about attainable. All of these things are stories of attainment, are stories of fulfillment. Relevant, I think it goes without saying. This is the work we do. The stories that I'm going to tell you today are relevant to all of our work. And time sensitive, well, you know, if time sensitive is today and now, if there's a story about a child that's getting abused and someone in a Head Start program suspects that there's abuse going on and does a report, there's nothing more time sensitive than that. It's not going to be captured in any study how many children have been protected from violence by Head Start programs. It's not going to be in any study, that number. It's not going to be a small number that we want to look at, but it's a number that we can be proud of protecting those children. So here, and we'll see, maybe I won't read as much, but the genesis for this presentation actually came from an article that was published in the Baltimore Sun last month. So, and some of these stories, I got to go back. Some of these stories are from Head Start. Some of them are just from my experience working with young children. But Head Start does all of these things. Most of them are Head Start programs. But this young woman on the left there is my daughter. And this is actually not Head Start. Her church in Long Beach, California, they go down into Mexico once a month and they work with orphans and volunteer with orphans, and they bring down clothes and they bring down toys and they bring down books. So this was a picture she shared on Facebook. And Facebook, you know, once in a while, you know, there is something good and meaningful on Facebook. This was one of them. This is a picture that makes a dad very proud. So here we are. This school used to be called 102nd Street School in Watts, Los Angeles. If you don't know Watts, this is inner city. Now it's called Florence Griffith Joyner Elementary. This was the first school that I taught in when I moved to Los Angeles in 1985. First day of class, I had a child. I'm going to probably discard my notes here because I think I know what I want to say. Had a child come into the class, first day of school, circle time, and I don't have to, see, I had to describe to the Baltimore Sun what circle time is, but to you I don't have to describe what circle time is. Circle time, boy is sharing, yeah, my dad's got a gun under his pillow. You know, this is like first day of school, you know, you're coming in, you're inspired, you're ready to teach, and then this is reality. That this child, you know, and these parents in the community live in a place where, you know, the only way they're going to feel safe is having a gun under their pillow. And that's not really security. Having a gun under your pillow indicates that you're insecure, you know, and you're living in insecure security. So now, let me bring in Boston. That's horrible. It's tragic. You know, it's in our face. There's so many cameras there. And Corey, you know, kind of preaching to me, teaching to me at the table. What I'm going to say to you now is not to say, well, this is worse than this. I'm going to tell you that all things are equal. These things are equally bad. That I live in Baltimore, and there is not a week, there's not 1 week that goes by that there's either not a child shot, and there are some days in Baltimore when I turn on the news in the afternoon, the first 2 stories, someone has been shot and killed in East Baltimore. Someone has been shot in West Baltimore. In Boylston, in Boston, there's probably not been a shooting on that street for 30 years. I don't know that, but that's going to be my guess. But so I'm just saying that, you know, these tragedies, this kind of inner city terror that our families live with, that we work with, not all of you are urban programs, and some of this can happen in rural programs too. But what I'm saying is that Head Start is that safe place that child comes in, feels safe, feels secure for at least 3.5 hours a day, some programs full day. That child can feel safe and secure, learn, laugh, get along with peers, and grow inside. So the impact is immeasurable. Now, you got this Jewish guy from New York up here, so I'm really not into the sermon call and response, but I'm going to ask you once in a while here at the end of these things, when I ask you impact, I'm going to try to get you to say immeasurable. So we're going to try this again. So the impact is? Immeasurable. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to go for rabbi just from that one response, but, you know. But who knows? So also in Los Angeles, and what you see on these slides, you get some close in if you wanted to go there and see kind of the layout of the land. And some of them you'll see just streets on top of streets, so you know that these are urban areas. And then on the left side, I try to give you a perspective of where these programs are. So Elizabeth Street Learning Center was Elizabeth Street School when I was there. I taught parenting classes in the summer. And you're talking parents coming in, just some parents, just like in our Head Start programs, feeling helpless, frustrated, not knowing what to do, not knowing about child development. I tell people, there's never a college class. There's no parenting 101 in college or in high school. You know, I learned it from my parents. They were pretty good. I turned out okay, but they really didn't know about child development. These parents come in with challenges with their children. So that was one of the things that I was fortunate enough to be able to work with parents, 10 sessions, and also part of the curriculum I used was a child abuse, alternatives to child abuse kind of prevention, and sharing with parents strategies for how to deal with certain types of behaviors, tantrum, sharing problems, not cleaning up, not eating your food, kind of typical stuff that parents deal with every day. But what I say is, Head Start, you know, we are the model. We are the parent engagement model. We really involve parents. We give them parent education skills. We bring them into the classroom, show what's developmentally appropriate. So again, you know, I would say the impact here is definitely, that was pretty good. I don't make you say it again. I'm not into the competition with ourselves. That was good. But the next one better be a little better. So here, this was some work I did in Riverside County, the Office of Education for the Head Start program there. And I monitored programs. So now we're starting to get a little bit rural, if not very rural. And this school district out in Coachella Valley, there's a music festival out there that's famous, but there's also a school district out there that in my mind is famous because they've got a Head Start program and they're doing incredible services for children. So my experience, and the experience that I'm going to share here, is that I went out there one day and I'm doing my education monitoring, that was my job, and I'm watching a girl on a swing, and she's swinging, great, and I come in close, and she's missing half of one of her arms. But she's on that swing, and she's going as high and as fast as any other child, you know, with both arms, full arms, but she's doing that, you know, as far as I could see, she was not disabled. But, you know, in your mind, the first place you go to, oh, this is a child with disabilities. So I talked with the teacher afterwards, after the class is over, and I'm trying to find out about that child and the IEP. She doesn't have an IEP. She is not disabled. She is doing everything that a normal child needs to do. She makes her own adaptations. If the program needs to adapt somewhat, they adapt somewhat, but no IEP is needed. So what I say about Head Start is, and when I say that we are the universal inclusive program, yes, local school district education agencies, yes, they have a mandate that says that they need to serve children with special needs and to provide special education. But Head Start is the only early childhood program that has a mandate that a minimum of 10% of the children attending have disabilities. There are programs across this country that will not take children with disabilities, okay? So we are a universal, inclusive program. And I would say the impact we make is certainly immeasurable. So here's my first job, teaching young children. And this was actually called the International Playgroup. This is not a Head Start program, this is a private preschool. But you know what? This was my first experience. I started as an assistant teacher of 3-year-olds. It's kind of fallen off the resume, but that's where I started in 1980. And just a brief little experience here. We had children, the International Playgroup at the time was a feeder school to the United Nations school. So we had children and families, you talk about diversity. We had children and families from all over the world. You know, one of the nice little things I remember from snack, each of the children had the flag from their country. They would bring over the table for snack, and they knew where to sit based on what they saw their flag there. And all those flags on the top, all those flags, there have been children from those countries in that school. But the one thing that I remember was these 2 boys from India, twin boys, 4-year-olds. It was my first year as a co-teacher there. very quiet, just both just sort of hanging on to each other, very little English. Never saw them smiling. You know, and as a teacher, and you can kind of see me, I've got a personality and I've got a sense of humor, and I want children to sort of open up and be enjoying and playing. And that was not these boys. You know, so that was an early lesson for me. And I have to tell you, I don't know if that would be, I don't know if you can use the word fail, but I might score very low on a class assessment of my classroom with those two boys. Because pretty much for 3/4 of the year, I just stepped back and let those boys be. 4 years old, they got time to learn. They're in a new country. They're in a building without their parents. They're clinging on to each other. And it took me a while, but I learned probably within the first 2 weeks, you know what? There's nothing to push here. Just let these boys learn, live, interact the way they do it. So what's my memorable takeaway here? Well, two memorable takeaways. I can't remember what the experience was, but sometime around this time of year, March and April, something happened when we were playing in outside time or inside in the gym room there, and something happened with one of the other kids, and these boys just broke out laughing. And I want to tell you, I hadn't seen them laughing, smiling the whole year. Okay? It was incredible. And should I have pushed it earlier? What would be gained from that? It happened in their time, and kind of what I learned there is just, and this was, I didn't know about Head Start in 1982. I didn't know about respecting, reflecting diversity in standards. I just knew that I'm working with children from around the world. Each of these kids come in with different cultures, different values. And so I learned that lesson. Fortunately, Head Start, it's a core part of our philosophy. It's a core part of what we do. So that's the takeaway lesson here. And I think that we've got this core philosophy of respecting and reflecting diversity. I think the impact is certainly immeasurable. I don't think they can measure that. I don't think the class is going to measure the teacher that stands back and says, you know what, you don't know these children. You're coming in here to do 40 minutes one day during a week of a review. I don't think you're going to understand what's going on with me and these children here, okay? Class is a useful tool. It's a good teacher professional development tool. But is it something that, quote, measures quality? I think it measures certain skills and what we, I'm not going to go there. Let's go on. Because this will get out of the room. We've got someone from the region office here. What am I saying? Oh my God. What did I didn't just say that. You didn't hear that. So who knows there's Head Start programs in American Samoa? Who knows that? Anyone? Not too many. Shouldn't be many. There's Head Start programs in American Samoa. Look at the map there. I really had to kind of pull out a little bit on MapQuest, like about 8 more clicks out of minus. It's out there. It's closer to Australia, I think, from what I was looking at the map, than it is to the United States. But there's Head Start programs in America Samoa. And why I say a community of caring? Well, this is a conversation from the director of the program. Our priority now is safe drinking water, okay? They're getting some food, but the community and the families need safe drinking water, not just for the program, but for the families too. And we can get into the whole technical of what's an allowable expense. Are you allowed to buy drinking water for families when there's no safe drinking water? Is that a program expense? Is that something you'd be typically paying? God, here's a little bit of my systems background, you know. Are you allowed to do that? Is that a reasonable expense? So let's take a look. And I got to do a little manipulation here, but not too much. Oh, finally, something visual. He's going to stop talking for a second. A second. Don't get your hopes up. So there you go. Let's go here. So let's go to that second paragraph. There was an earthquake, and then let's go to the third paragraph. There was a tsunami. This is 2009. Who heard about the tsunami in American Samoa in 2009? Few people. That's good. That's pretty good. More people than knew about Head Start in Samoa. So let's take a look at what the director sent. There's a little bit more detail of the island than I could get. Fagasa is up kind of in the middle, upper left, not upper left, but kind of middle left, where you see Potasi County. Just to the left and below there is Fagasa, sort of right on the water. Let's go. There's a little piece of a classroom there. This is a different site, just in case we didn't know what tsunami does. Yeah, hurricanes too, exactly. But you knew about the hurricane. I bet you everybody in the room knew about the hurricane. Not many people knew about the tsunami or knew about the Head Start programs. Let's get to Fagasa. Okay, here's a little bit. I guess that used to be a classroom. You get the idea. So, what's the community of caring? Well, see how big we're going to go. About that big. So, we reached out and we had programs respond, we had individuals respond. I'm going to share with you the programs. Okay? And we know Head Start programs, we're not just loaded with money. And I'm going to stop here on this one. See this one near the top now, Citizens for, no, I don't think it's Citizens for Citizens. I think I may have written that wrong. Maybe it is. Citizens for Citizens Head Start. It is right? I'm getting a yes. I'm getting a yes from the audience there. $1,000. Anyone want to guess where that $1,000 came from? Come on, I'll take guesses. This is not a rhetorical question. Throw it out there. What? Parents, staff? Parents? This is the Policy Council here. They do fundraising every year for just a variety of things, and then they prioritize what they're going to spend their money on. They had raised more than this amount, but they prioritized that they were going to donate $1,000 to this program. So this is the Policy Council voted on it, they pulled it together, and this money was wired to Samoa. And they purchased water, was given to families directly. So, you can get around all that allowable, reasonable when you've got people caring, when you've got a community of caring. And there's not going to be any impact study looking at that because we know that impact is certainly immeasurable. Where am I? I'm on time. I'm going a little long. I will try to speed it up a little bit. Okay, this is the program that I was the director of. I've still stayed in contact with them. They do an annual holiday food drive every year. Ms. Castro, she sent me a little something yesterday, and just for the sake of time, I'm going to share a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing, but my name is Aida Castro, and I'm a former Head Start parent and PACE early childhood education staff member. I have 2 daughters, my oldest being Erica and Diane, the youngest, and 1 son. Okay? I decided to be more involved in her education by becoming a volunteer in her classroom every day for 3.5 hours. Eventually, I took opportunities and was given to participate as the chairperson of the policy committee at the site level, being a part of the executive committee board in LACO. That's the larger grantee, LA County Office of Education. I worked there too. Second daughter was attending Inglewood Head Start. My motivation to participate and continue. I participated at the site parent committee, also in the California Head Start Association. She then goes on to tell us that she became an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer. And actually, I'm not going to read through everything, but I know part of what she was doing there, I spoke to her on the phone yesterday, was she was coming in doing a literacy program. And she's Spanish speaking, so she came in and she was doing literacy in Spanish with the children in the program, coming in and volunteering. And this was with the LA County Office of Ed, so she was doing it at county level. Okay. Briefly, Gloria. I haven't put her last name in there because she doesn't know that I'm telling this story. Gloria is a parent of a child when I was the director there. When I left, and she was volunteering, she was on the policy committee. And then when I left, she then became a family service worker with the program that I was no longer at. Again, this food drive continued, and one of the traditions that I've continued, they have volunteers that come in from Santa Monica, which is a much more affluent community than Head Start is usually serving. But the volunteers, young children, older children, adults, the Air Force Reserve comes in, and they do this holiday food drive, and they do Santa giveaway gifts and stuff. And what I continue to do is I pay for, and I used to bring when I lived there, but now I'm here, I just order it and someone else brings it, but they get pizza for the volunteers. So here's your story of Gloria as a teacher for me. One of the years there, the pizza was in, I'm doing my thing that I do, which sometimes maybe I get a little too proud, and I'm proud that everybody's getting pizza that I've provided. And Gloria goes to get a piece of pizza for one of the kids that's been waiting in line with her mom, for about an hour, waiting to get in the front of the line for the food and the gifts and stuff like that. And I stopped Gloria and said, "Oh, the pizza's for the volunteers." Okay? There's no happy ending to this story. I'm telling you that right now. Okay? The ending of this story is that I've lived with that. This is just part of being Jewish too. I've lived with that guilt inside for about the last 7 years that parent had the right idea. What was I thinking? Stopping her from giving pizza to a child standing in line, watching other people eating pizza. Okay? So sometimes being in Head Start, you gotta you have to be the student. So I'm still being the student, and I'm sharing that story, and I've learned a lot from that story. Immeasurable. I forgot that thing. My bad. Okay. All right, I'm going to quickly go through this one. I was on a Head Start review. This is one of those places where things happen for a reason. I've done strategies for supporting mandated reporters of child abuse. I've done training for the last 10 years, national level, regional level, local level. Here I'm on a Head Start review in Lorain, Ohio, and one of the pieces that I was reviewing was the bus ride. So I was on the bus ride, they assigned me to a seat, the kids had assigned seats, kid gets on the bus, sits next to me, he's got this big red swollen eye. And I said, "What happened?" "Oh, my dad bopped me." It's like, when I do this in the training, I said, "Well, when are you a mandated reporter?" The kid put the hat on me. We say it's a hat. Oh, I forgot that. Speaking of a hat, I'm glad that came up. I didn't get the memo, so I got this generic. This is like a real generic. This is your New York generic hat. Because I missed the whole hat making memo. But anyway, this kid put the mandated reporter hat on me in the middle of a federal review. And I got off the bus, went to the education coordinator at the site where he was being transported to for the day for his program, and sat down and we reported together. So not only did I comply, I get to see the program complying, I get to see the procedure, but again, this is one of those things, it's happening every day. There's a mandated report happening in a Head Start program every day. So if we're saying, let's say there's 200 days a year, we know a minimum, this is immeasurable, okay? This probably can be measured. This is a number they probably can pick up from PIR if they want to. Okay, or we can pick up from PIR. So quickly, I reached out, and a couple of teachers contacted me from this program. This is in Bennington, Vermont. And this is 2 parents. My name is Jessica George. I have a 3-year-old son, Terrell. I changed the child's name, who goes to school at Bennington Head Start. We moved here from Florida when Terrell was accepted into this program. However, within a week, I was told one thing you need to do is health insurance. At the time, I had insurance from Florida, which is not accepted at any doctor's office here in town. At first, the lady at the desk where she went to try to get the insurance was giving me a hard time about being seen on that day. Kim, who works in the Head Start program, nicely and politely stepped in and spoke on my behalf. To this day, I'm not really sure what she said to make it work, but it did. We were in being seen in 10 minutes. By morning, the boys had every doctor's appointment scheduled that they needed. When Terrell first started, he had a hard time speaking, but after being in this program for 7 months with hard, dedicated work, he now speaks fluently and correctly. Teacher Kim has done an amazing job, from 1, 2, 3s to ABCs, speaking and playing, to the last few potty accidents we were having. I just can't emphasize enough as to how important their roles have played in our lives. Okay? You know these stories, you know. She doesn't know what happened in that office. You know why she doesn't know what happened? You know what happened. The program, those teachers, some coordinator, some family service worker built a partnership, nurtured a partnership, okay? Head Start does this every day. It's not going to be in the impact study. It's not going to be there because we know the impact here is really every day. It's immeasurable. So I'm not going to read this one. I'm just going to kind of synopsize. You know, here's almost my story of those two boys from India. I didn't know what story she's going to tell me, but here's a story about a shy child coming in to the program, you know, and now that child's blossoming. This was a child that wouldn't let go of her mother. And this is this mother's story. You know, this mother's asked to tell something about Head Start and the difference it's made. This mother's not talking about the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the class assessment. This mother's talking about my child letting go, feeling secure when I'm not there, being able to grow, being able to learn, feeling safe, going on a field trip and feeling safe on a field trip without her mom there. And you know, I put individual needs here. This is really how we address children. When we do it best, we really look at each child as an individual. We look at each family as an individual. I can't say that happens in other programs. And there's not going to be any assessment that captures this. It is certainly immeasurable. A couple of very quick stories. Seneca Nation of Indians, upstate New York. I was on a Head Start review here, and I'm just going to be really short on this. But while I was on the review, about every hour, this is the transportation coordinator. Every hour, the transportation coordinator gets on the loudspeaker and is speaking native language for about a minute. I don't know what he's saying, and I know they're doing some native language instruction in the classroom, but you know, we had some prayers shared at the start today. To me, it sounded very spiritual. And you would hear this man talking, and you could see, you know, sort of like everything in the center kind of stopping, and people listening, children listening to this man, preserving language. You know, usually you don't see that in the job description for transportation coordinator, I don't think. So this impact also immeasurable. Same thing, I was doing a child abuse reporting training. This is Cheyenne River Sioux. And I came into Pierre, South Dakota, it's a small little city to come into. And then imagine going 2 hours from there. There's just nothing. You're talking isolation. And this is one of those qualities, and I don't talk about it as the headline on this slide, but you might as well say preserving communities, preserving languages wherever they are. However isolated they are, the services are getting there. But I did my training, and I stayed around because I'm in the middle of nowhere there. There's one place to eat, there's one place to go, that's it. But I stayed there. The person that came in after was from their public school program. A trainer came in, and she was working with the teachers. This was in the summer before kids came back, teaching the teachers native language and giving them tools and giving them materials to preserve the native language there. I'm not sure there's any other program out there doing that. I don't think there's any other preschool program is doing Native American languages. It is certainly immeasurable. And I'm going to read here. And then I think I'm almost done. Then it's going to be your turn, so I'm kind of priming you to get ready. This is Jesus, reached back to me. He read my article in the paper. It seems that the benefits are not always statistically measurable, but they certainly are on a visual, emotional, and personal level. I immediately think about my friend, Mrs. Sustaita, a teacher, colleague, and her daughter Priscilla. Head Start played a pivotal role in their lives. Mrs. Sustaita has done an amazing job for the Head Start program in Westlake, Texas, where she teaches and has dedicated her life to. Mrs. Sustaita was introduced to Head Start in 1986 when she enrolled her daughter to her first school setting. Mrs. Sustaita was amazed at the progress her child had made in Head Start throughout the 2 years she was enrolled. Mrs. Sustaita was so enthused about the program that she decided to become a parent volunteer throughout her child's second year in the program. Her natural abilities to work with Head Start and children with disabilities were noteworthy, and in 1989 she was hired as an assistant teacher. In 1991 she became a full-time teacher for the Head Start program. The story of Mrs. Sustaita and her daughter Priscilla has success written all over it. Mrs. Sustaita became a full-time teacher for the program while attending college at the same time. In 2006, she received an Associate of Arts degree. She presently is working toward an additional degree in interdisciplinary studies, which she will complete in May of 2013. So, the ending to this story is that her daughter is now a speech pathologist. Okay, we've got Eric working the room here, and again, I'm just thrilled. We've got tech going here, okay? So Head Start makes a big difference. Here's a daughter now, mother's in Head Start working, and daughter's a speech pathologist in Texas. Certainly this is immeasurable. So here, start to think of your stories. We're gonna watch a 3-minute video. I'm gonna be done. I don't know, was there a mic? Ah, Beth's got the mic back there. Beth is walking around with the mic. Think of your stories. You might want to have some tissues, I don't know. I found this pretty moving. I really did. It takes a little bit of technological startup, but we'll get there. This is Catholic Charities outside of Phoenix, Arizona, or in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is Darren's story.
When I first got involved with Head Start, I was probably a little depressed and a little lost. I really didn't know what to do. I found Head Start on the humbug. I was a single parent. I had 3 small children. It's kind of, when you say where I was at, it's kind of hard to say because I didn't realize that I was in a place that was not good until Head Start kind of opened my eyes. And when I first came to Head Start, I thought it was a place just to watch my kids. But Head Start didn't settle for that. They said, no, you have to be involved, you have to be engaged, you have to get out with your kids. You need to spend time with them, you need to be involved in their life. This is why, you're their first teacher. That's what they tell you, say, you're their first teacher and their primary teacher. And they ingrained that, gave us hope for the future, Because when I came here, I was saying to myself, what's the point of me doing anything? I'm on disability, nobody, and I got the kids, it's just us, we don't have no family out here, we don't have no support, we don't know what's going on, so, but we just trying to do the best we can. And that's what I thought, I'm just doing the best I can. But Head Start realized that my best that I was doing wasn't enough. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying. I wasn't aware, I wasn't equipped with the right tools to have my family strive and the right information. Other things, like when I had to say about this engagement, when I grew up, there was nobody that engaged with me, through all of high school. I always wonder how I made it, When I think about this, there's nobody that checked my homework or helped me learn my math or my multiplication. And when I went to Head Start, it was like, There's things you have to do as a parent. And they actually got a requirement called in-kind where you spend time with your kids. That's a requirement. But to me, that was training to get me used to sitting at home with my kids at home. It wasn't for the kids, it was for me as a parent to say, no, you have to make time out of your schedule every day to look at your kids' work and help them with their school because you're their first teacher. But Head Start gave me hope that they can have a better future. And the reason they gave me hope because they taught me how. They taught me how, as a parent, the things that I need to do to my children to get them out of this cycle of poverty and make them productive members of society. People always look at this about a kid program. The Head Start is not a kid program, it's a family program. It's not just about the kids, it's the family. And when you walk in the door, there's so much support around you that you see that. They don't just put your kids in the classroom, no, they put you, the family, they got people calling you up and they trying to help you about being engaged. And I think I'm a better person, a better father, and I think I'm a better citizen because a Head Start.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the Florida Head Start Association, we have a special plaque for you. I want to thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. It was just wonderful. And that is truly the immeasurable impacts that we have in families. And it's just beautiful to hear this story.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I said, we're in Head Start. We hug. We don't do any handshaking.
We hug from the start. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
As well.
Thank you.
Thank you
That is so
much.
nice of you. Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you.